Suttree is the 1979 semi-autobiographical novel written by American author Cormac McCarthy. Set in the slums of Knoxville, Tennessee in 1951, the story follows the episodic experiences of Cornelius "Bud" Suttree, a wayward man from an affluent family who abandons his wife, child, and life of privilege to live on a rundown houseboat in McNally Flats. As Suttree wallows on the fringes of an outcast society, he overcomes a series of eccentric characters and sordid criminals to live the simple life of an impoverished fisherman. The novel has a disjointed format that bucks traditional plot structure and includes many flashbacks and changes in perspective. Written over the span of 20 years, Suttree has drawn comparisons to James Joyce's Ulysses, John Steinbeck's Canary Row, and Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn. According to the Times Literary Supplement, Suttree contains a humor that is Faulknerian in its gentle wryness and freakish, imaginative flair reminiscent of Flannery O'Connor. According to Tennessee-based music journalist Stanley Booth, Suttree is probably the funniest and most unbearably sad of McCarthy's books. Narrated in an omnipotent third-person perspective, which can see into the minds of the characters, the story begins in 1951, Knoxville, Tennessee. Cornelius "Bud" Suttree is a college-educated wastrel in his 30s who comes from a well-to-do family. Yet, Suttree has deliberately abandoned his wife and infant son to live on a rundown houseboat in McNally Flats near the polluted Tennessee River. In the beginning of the story, Suttree learns his infant son has died of an illness. Suttree watches his son's wake from a distance and proceeds to bury the boy by himself as soon as the remaining mourners depart. Suttree is a loner who keeps to himself away from civilized society, living among the marginalized outcasts and criminal derelicts that time has forgotten. Suttree has consciously disavowed his parents' wealth and left a life of luxury in the past. Instead, he earns a modest living by fishing the river for filthy carp and catfish. Still, with a bed and heat, Suttree lives better than most of his friends. As we meet Suttree, he is overlooking police officers as they retrieve a suicide victim from the river. The novel goes on to follow Suttree for 3 shambolic years as he experiences a series of colorful events that seem to have little effect on his personality. In a conversation with his uncle, Suttree learns that his affluent father married down in life as he married a housekeeper. Suttree has become estranged from his family, with much of his despair revolving around the fact that he has had an identical twin sibling who died during childbirth. Suttree returns to his large childhood house at various points throughout the novel, although it has been deserted for years. After coming across a bevy of thieves, derelicts, miscreants, pariahs, poltroons, spalpeens, curmudgeons, clotpoles, murderers, gamblers, bawds, whores, trolls, brigands, toppers, tosspots, sots, and other assorted and felonious debauches, Suttree ends up in the workhouse, a prison work camp. While in prison, Suttree has an emotional breakdown when he is visited by his mother. Later, at the workhouse, Suttree is introduced to a young simpleton named Gene Harrogate. Harrogate has been sent to jail for having sex with a local farmer's watermelons, which has earned him the nickname the Moonlight Melon Hunter. Following Harrogate's release from prison, Suttree makes a pointed attempt to help the man sort his life out and stay out of trouble. However, Suttree is unable to do so when Harrogate sets off on a multitude of hilarious misadventures. One such mishap includes Gene using toxic meat and a slingshot to kill fitter mice, which is what Gene calls bats. This attempt leads to a bounty put on Gene and Suttree's heads. Another ill-fated episode includes Harrogate using dynamite in order to tunnel beneath Knoxville and steal money from the state treasury. Among the assorted characters he meets, Suttree comes into contact with J-Bone, Ocean Frog, Blind Richard, Ab Jones, two gay men named Tippin Through the Dew and an African-American Geechee sorceress. As with the sorceress, Suttree's relationships with women all end horribly. When he isn't wasting time in the workhouse, fishing, drinking, vomiting, hanging out with rag pickers, white trash, and poor black folk, Suttree frequents prostitutes. When Suttree rows down the river and stays with a family camping along the banks, he becomes romantically entangled with the daughter of the impoverished family. One night, Suttree is awoken to find the girl and her mother have been crushed to death in a landslide that spilled onto their homeless settlement. Suttree silently rows off. Later, Suttree happens upon a pair of identical twins who can finish each other's thoughts and live in perfect harmony with each other, even while apart. This reminds Suttree of his lost twin at birth, accounting for his fractured psyche as a poor, aimless, but educated man. Later, one of Suttree's black friends is killed during a scuffle with police. Harrogate is arrested for an unsuccessful robbery attempt. Suttree tries to forego alcohol after the death of his son, but cannot. He gets into a bar fight that leaves him badly injured, but he flees the hospital prematurely. In a depressed alcoholic stupor, Suttree nearly dies of hunger and harsh conditions while on a trek into the mountains. Suttree meets a prostitute who falls in love with him and becomes his girlfriend. However, Suttree ends the relationship when the mentally unstable prostitute loses her mind and thrashes the interior of their new vehicle. Towards the end of the novel, Suttree contracts typhoid fever, suffers a prolonged hallucination, and nearly dies. In the end, Suttree comes to the conclusion that his wayward life experiences on the Tennessee River have reaffirmed his identity and given him a renewed outlook on life. As McNally Flats is threatened to be razed to make a way for a freeway construction, Suttree leaves Knoxville in search of a new way of living. Through it all, Suttree admits that, "I learned that there's one Suttree and one Suttree only." This reading is from the Super Summary website. Link to the website is in the description below. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to my channel.